Hello, good morning. I'm Professor Naresh Rakha. Welcome to this special session on how to write research article in biomedical field. The studies and experiments involving animals or human subjects require some special considerations when it comes to publishing it. The skill of writing biomedical research and getting it published can be learned and mastered with right guidance and practice. Let me share some important tips to write a great research article. The very first question is when to start writing. Before and during the experimentation, read extensively anything and everything about the topic. While reading articles and books, make note of the references. This will make writing first draft quite easy and you will be able to refer back to these references very quickly. Review and renew your literature search again at the end of the experimentation part. When you know the topic by heart and you can discuss it and talk about it without even looking at the original article, at this stage, you will be able to form important discussion points just from what you have read. At this point of time, you should start writing the first draft of your research article. The first step will be to decide the kind of paper you are going to publish. Should it be a full research article or a short note? Select 2 to 3 journals to which your paper should be submitted, considering journal's impact factor and the financials involved. Carefully go through all the manuscript requirements of journal publishers. There is no point of writing a paper without following the guidelines. Writing the initial draft is the creative and intellectual job involving critical thinking and analytical skills. Do not correct and edit when the writing first draft. Your job now is to produce a complete first draft and not the perfect draft. Editing should be the second stage of the work. Just get started. Just start writing, no matter how good or how much we are writing on the first day. Only requirement is to pick up the writing and do not procrastinate. While writing, focus on your critical skills of analyzing, interpreting, and correlating the findings. Begin with the experimental section, which is easier, followed by results section. Once you start with the easiest part of writing a research article, it will give you a sense of progress and that will diminish the procrastination. Thumb rule is don't begin with the introduction. It is really the hardest section to write. Moreover, it could be waste of time at this point of time. Since you have records of materials and methods you have used in your experiments, writing experimental part will be an easy exercise. For the results section, since you have the data, so writing this section should also be very easy for you. It is strongly recommended that you create an outline by making a list of tables and figures from your results. Put them in a logical order which is easy to demonstrate and easy to understand by the reader. The logical sequence of data tables and figures will be the outline of basic framework. You can make and divide it into several subsections. So once you have tabulated the whole data, work upon one data table and figure at a time. If you have to stop, pause after completing the subsection you are working upon. You can easily pick up the writing later. While writing first draft, take notes indicating what references might be needed and would be about. But don't stop to collect the references at that time because it can interrupt the entire flow of thoughts and the writing. So coming to the first part of research article writing, how to write the materials and methods section. This section should comprehensively mention the materials, procedures, and equipments used to conduct the experiment so that when any researcher wants to conduct similar study, he or she can replicate it. A write-up should provide the reader and the reviewer enough information to judge whether the study is valid and reproducible. Heading of this section should be as per the instructions of target journal. For example, the heading Materials and Methods may need to be changed to Materials or Patients and the Method as per the requirement of the target journal. To help the readers follow the study design or methodology better, visual elements like schematic diagram, flowchart, and table may be used. You should write the literature sources from where you found the selected and particular method. Now present all the experiments in a logical and chronological order of studies. Match the order of specific method to the order of the results that were achieved using those methods. Write the name or specific objective of each experiment as a subheading. Carefully describe the materials and equipments used in testing and processing during the experiments. Clearly mention the control variables, independent and dependent variables. Describe the study participants, the source from where animals were received, number of animals you are using, their ages, sex, their initial condition, and how they were housed and cared for. Regarding study on human subjects, information about number of subjects, geographical location, their age ranges, sex, and the medical history, etc. should be given. Declare that written consent was provided by each subject. Describe how the chosen group was divided into subgroups along with their characteristics, including the control. Describe any specific equipment used, such as housing needs and feeds of the animals. Clearly mention the permission obtained from Institutional Ethics Committee. Approval of the Institutional Ethics Committee, whether it is for human or animal, is required. If the study involves human subjects or animals, give a declaration that all human or animal subjects were treated humanely as per the guidelines. You should describe procedures, study design, preparation of tissue sample, drugs, etc. besides the instruments used. Mention duration and protocol of procedure and treatments. Here we also need to describe the criteria for inclusion and exclusion of the participants, basis of that criteria, and how many subjects were eliminated. Describe how the data was measured and which statistical tests were performed. Specific software use must be cited. Focus more on how the method was used to meet the objective, and any obstacles faced and how they were overcome should be described. Do not describe well-known methods. Instead, cite the specific experiments and references. If you have modified it to meet the specific needs of the study, describe these modifications and the reasons for that. While mentioning the details of the methods you have used, don't discuss the pros and cons of other methods. The reasons why you did not use a particular method or how your chosen method is superior to others can go to the discussion section. Coming to the part 2, that is writing the research section of a research article. The results are usually written as a separate chapter or in combination with the discussion if the target journal demands. So after completing experiments, immediate priority is to organize the entire data. Statistical tools should be applied to check the significance of variations and to summarize data by converting replicate values to mean. Several statistical analysis softwares are available online. Select the most appropriate and specific software and apply on your data if you wish so. Now, you should present the analyzed data in tabular and graphic form for the ease of understanding. Tables and graphs should be self-explanatory. The title, the legend, footnotes to the tables and graphs should be drafted meticulously so that reader understands it easily. Check the suitability of table, graph, or figure for a given set of data. Take care that one set of data is not presented in multiple ways. For example, first in a table and then in a graph. Then write overall description of experiments and present the data in a logical order using tables and graphs. The results section should simply state the findings without bias or any interpretation. You may notice significant correlation between two variables never described before. You can describe these results, but speculation about the reasons for this correlation should go to the discussion section. So what are the elements of results section? Number 1, a very short introductory paragraph that repeats the results question and helps to understand the results. Secondly, a very brief about the study participants. In biomedical research, it is common to include a first table summarizing the demographic, clinical, and other relevant characteristics of the study participants. And number 3, a systematic description of the main findings in a logical order as mentioned in method section, highlighting the most relevant results first. Please don't mention any single result. Visual elements such as figures, charts, maps, tables, etc. that summarize and illustrate the finding should be numbered and cited in the text. Figures and tables should be able to stand on its own without the text, which means that the legend should include enough information to understand the non-textual elements. Results should be written in the past tense. Avoid writing in the passive voice. Use active voice as much as possible because passive voice weakens the power of language and increases the number of words needed to say the same thing. Use verbal phrases instead of long nouns. For example, instead of writing as shown in table 1, there was a significant increase in gene expression. Instead, you can write as shown in table 1, gene expression increased significantly. You should seek the second opinion or feedback on the results. Ask your co-authors to check the results and give their comments and suggestions. An external opinion will help you to identify misinterpretations or the errors. You may ask a colleague who is not directly involved in the work to review and then evaluate what your colleague did or did not understand. If needed, seek additional help from a qualified expert. What are the common errors in writing the results section? Number 1, some researchers include raw results, repetitive data. You don't need to present every single number and calculation, but a summary of the results. Secondly, it is unnecessary to describe the whole data in text if it is contained in the tables or figures. You don't need to repeat all of them in the results section. The third error is don't repeat the background information of introduction and method section. Number 4, if results and methods don't match, explain the methodology used to obtain these observations at appropriate place in method section. Number 5, including tables and figures that are not mentioned in the body. Number 6, errors in figures and tables include use of an excessive number of figures and tables, or complex figures and tables, or hard to read figures with many subfigures, or enormous tables which are difficult to interpret. It's also advisable to avoid cryptic abbreviations, inadequate use of figures, tables that are not self-standing. And please note that figures and tables require a caption. All abbreviations are to be explained in the legend or a footnote, and statistical tests applied are to be frequently reported. Another common mistake is ignoring negative results or results that don't support the conclusion. It is unethical. You should mention all relevant findings, even if they fail to support your predictions or the hypothesis. Negative results are useful and will guide future studies on the topic. Provide your interpretation for negative results in the discussion section. Now coming to the part 3 of the research article, that is writing discussion section. The scientific arguments in the discussion section should be correct and logical. Guiding principles are that it should be concise and clear. Use the present verb tense for the established facts and past verb tense for specific works and the references. Preferably use subheadings to organize interpretation into the themes. So coming to the content of discussion section. Number 1 is explanation of the results. Explain findings that were profound or unexpected. Mention whether or not the results were expected and provide explanations for that. Write down the meaning of unusual patterns if you have observed. Number 2, references to previous research. Cite the relevant and important studies reported in the field. Compare your results with the findings from other studies and use other studies to support your claim. You may like to explain what might be the logical explanation of your results being different from others' observations. Number 3, interpretations and hypotheses. Write down what these findings mean and propose recommendations based on these interpretations. Write a general claim or possible conclusion which may become basis of the future studies. Begin by briefly restating the research problem and answer all the research questions, highlighting the problems that you posed in the introduction. The order of interpreting each major finding should be the same as described in the results section. Describe the patterns, principles, and relationship shown by each major finding and place them in proper perspective. Follow a logical stream of thoughts. First state the answer, then the relevant results, and then cite the work of others. Refer to a figure or table to help the reader to understand it better. Number 4, analysis of unexpected findings. This paragraph should begin with a description of the unexpected findings, followed by the interpretation as to why you believe it appeared and, if necessary, its possible significance in relation to the overall study. If more than one unexpected finding emerged during the study, describe each of them in the order they appeared during the experimentation. Before concluding the discussion, identify potential limitations and weaknesses. Comment on their relative importance in relation to overall interpretation of the results. Avoid using an apologetic tone, however, be honest and self-critical. So now come the part 4, writing the abstract. Writing an abstract is like writing the most important things written in all other sections of the research article within the word limit prescribed by the target journal. Try to bring in all important points of materials and methods, results, discussion, and conclusion in the briefest possible way while maintaining the clarity of expression and ease of understanding. It looks easy, but is a very skillful job. Keep in mind 3 important considerations. Number 1, the abstract is the first section that is read by journal editors when deciding whether to send your manuscript for review or reject it straight away. Number 2, once published, the abstract is the first section to be read. In many cases, it is the only section that is available to the reader. Most of the literature databases, they index only the abstract, and the access to full text article is often restricted. And number 3, a well-worded, concise abstract is the best tool to convey your research to the scientific community. Though abstract appears first in the publication, but is written at the end of writing process. When you have written all other sections, it is easy to condense all aspects of research into a concise abstract. To begin with, go through your paper and highlight the most important sentences you have written in the section of introduction, methods, results, and discussion. Then use these sentences as an outline to write the abstract. At this point, it is also important to check your target journal style guide to examine their abstract guidelines. For example, some journals require a structured abstract with discrete sections, and most journals impose a strict word count limit. Information from the introduction section. First 2 to 3 sentences of the abstract should be about why you undertook this research. For example, from our recent research article, first sentence was, the ultraviolet germicidal radiations have been shown to inactivate all pathogens tested so far, but had limited applications due to their deleterious effect on human skin and eyes. The second sentence was, this necessitated the designing of the devices which can safely be used in households. These 2 introductory sentences described the problem and the aim of the study. Such introductory statements can easily draw the attention of the reader. The next sentence might go on to describe what information is lacking in the field or what previous researchers have done to try to address this problem. Such statements can lead into a statement of how your research addresses the issue in a unique way. You may prefer to use introductory phrases such as, here we aimed to dash dash, or here we demonstrate that dash dash, to indicate that you are stating the aim of your work. So the information from method section in the abstract. The method subsection of the abstract should summarize the basic design of the study and should briefly state the key techniques used. Abstracts in the biomedical fields should mention the organism, cell lines, or population studies or clinical trials, should mention the sample size, patient groups, dosages, and study duration. Here is an example of one sentence description from method section in the abstract. 100 consecutive consenting male inpatients in a state of moderately severe, uncomplicated alcohol withdrawal at screening were randomized to receive either drug X at 8 mg per day, down titrated to 0 in a fixed dose schedule across 8 treatment days. Now let us see what information from results section should become part of the abstract. The results subsection should be the longest part of the abstract and you should write in a maximum detail. For example, statements such as significant differences in body weight were observed between the animals in group A and B are not very informative. Instead, consider making more specific statements such as the average body weight loss of the animals in group A was greater than that of the animals in group B, within bracket 20.4 plus minus 0.3 gram versus 8.4 plus minus 0.6 gram, P less than 0.01. Here the P value effectively conveys that the difference was significant. Thus, the word significant is no longer needed. And the last subsection, information from the discussion and conclusions. Last couple of sentences in abstract should mention the overall conclusions. If you check some good research publication, you will notice that authors use phrases such as our study revealed that dash dash or overall we conclude that dash dash. Then they state their main findings very concisely. The very last sentence of abstract should preferably state the implication of major findings or describe how your work has added scientific information in the existing knowledge pool. And the special note, since many readers have access to abstract only and can't access the full manuscript or entire set of data, they take conclusion at face value. So it's really very important to write abstract which truly reflects the whole work. The abstract usually carries a strict word count limit. If there is a need to reduce the word count, what should be avoided? The 5 things you can avoid is like citations, lengthy literature review, routine laboratory procedures, statistical methods or the software used, and undefined abbreviations or acronyms. Now comes the part 5, writing the bibliography. Collect the references, put them in sequence as per the pattern of target journal. You can use an automatic reference manager while working onto the document. There are software packages that can add citations on the go and fix references as citations are added, removed, and are deleted at a later stage. So here is the part 6, writing the introduction. Number 1, check the journal requirement. Try to avoid long introduction. A good target is about 500 words. Check the journal's guidelines. Past issues of that journal will provide the clearest guidance. Many journals have specific requirements for the introduction in their guidelines for authors. There might be a requirement of maximum word count or specific content such as hypothesis statement and summary of your main results in the introduction section itself. Good introduction provides a solid foundation to the article and compels the reader to continue reading your article. It shows the background of the study and its objective. It's important to show the readers and reviewers why your research topic is worth reading and why your research deserves their serious attention. Explain why this work is important. Do not just simply say subject X is important. Instead, tell why the topic is important. For example, instead of writing the C-reactive protein test is important in health management, probably you can write the C-reactive protein test is used to detect inflammation and thus sets basic guidelines for clinical management of inflammatory diseases. In the first paragraph of the introduction, write a couple of sentences about the broad research area and then mention the specific research area of your article to draw attention of a larger group of readers. The second paragraph should mention what you wanted to achieve so that the reader gets interested to find out whether you achieved. Be specific in citing references. On any point in introduction, limit citation of 1 to 2 references, which are most relevant, recent, and published in high-index peer-reviewed journal. When we write a sentence like pathogens are effectively killed by ultraviolet germicidal irradiation, references 4 to 10, too many references are cited at once. Though these 7 references may provide a good overview of the topic, but doesn't provide enough context and explanation for these studies. If all references are worth citing, mention these in details. For example, ultraviolet germicidal irradiation has been found to effectively kill all bacteria, reference 4.5, fungi, reference 6.7, and inactivate all viruses, reference 8.9, tested so far, including coronaviruses, reference 10. Mention a hypothesis for which the study is seeking confirmation or verification. For example, in this study, we hypothesize that X is related to Y, and we use method A to test this hypothesis. For research in biomedical sciences, you can state a research question like, in this study, we examined the research question whether drug X can be repurposed to treat COVID-19. Note that the research question doesn't always have to be stated in the interrogative form with question mark. The question can be put as a declarative sentence also. For example, in this study, we investigate whether drug X can be repurposed to treat COVID-19. Hypotheses and research questions are effective because they help give shape to the paper. In last paragraph, give a section by section overview of your paper if it is appropriate for your field. You can write briefly what you have written in other section, and this para is like an index of what will follow in the research article. Now coming to the final part, the final editing. After completing first draft, leave it for 2 to 3 days, then print it and review your own paper like a reviewer. Do critical editing and make sure that the English is coherent, science is correct. You can take help of editing tools available free of cost online. And at the end, decide on the title, which should truly reflect the content of research article and should be attractive but very short. Now arrange all the section in the standard format of title, authors, affiliations, abstract, introduction, experimental design, or materials and methods, results, discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, and bibliography. That's all. Wish you enjoy writing research article. Thank you very much. Do subscribe this channel and do give your feedback